Christmas weekend. Merry Christmas to everybody. We've had a wide range of topics today. We've talked to venture capitalists. We've talked to people out of work. We talked to people about interfacing with the state and how that has been difficult. We've talked to all kinds of people. The next guy up is a very special person. It's Rob Cornilles. Now, Rob is running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District. Rob is a great guy. I've spent quite a bit of time with Rob. One thing that I want to make sure that doesn't happen today is that Rob doesn't want to debate me, because I've watched Rob debate people, and it never ends well for the person on the other side. And Rob, you're on with me on Christmas weekend. This is Alan Alley. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Alan. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and the listeners today.
Yeah, great to have you on. Hey, Rob, the Democrats have gone, I would say, nuclear in about a million different ways. They went negative before Christmas in a special election where they have a nice registration advantage. You must have hit some kind of responsive chord to have them go nuclear on such a nice guy, Rob.
Well, I think it probably reflects their confidence in our ability to finally take this seat back and put it in the hands of someone who's actually created a job, who knows how to write and stick to a budget, who's fiscally responsible, versus their lack of confidence in their own candidate.
Well, Rob,
who hasn't done those things.
To that point, I watched a video, and Suzanne Bonamici has created jobs. You just watch it. She's created, hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs? What was the... I can't remember the quote.
The listeners here, Alan. if someone turns off their radio right now, they're going to get the wrong impression.
No, that's true. She didn't really do that. But what was she representing there, Rob?
Well, I think you're referring to an interview last week on one of the local news stations where she was asked how many jobs she has created, and she said, I can't even put a number on it. And they asked, has it been 100? Yes, at least. And the fact is, she's talking about her legislative career and all the bills that she's passed, or voted for, I should say.
Right.
And she believes that she has created, using taxpayer dollars, she's actually created jobs. Now, we looked into this, and as best we can tell, she has, through something that she voted on, that she likes to talk about, she created about 51 jobs in 18 months. Now,
51.
Yeah, and we don't even know, Alan, if those are part-time jobs, seasonal jobs, temporary jobs. We have no idea.
Well, Rob, when the state government is spending, $30 billion a year, and our state GDP is around $150 billion, then you could, using that logic, you could say, well, I've created 20% of all the jobs in Oregon. 1 out of every 5 jobs in Oregon is created by me, a politician, and that's insane.
Well, we all know that politicians don't create jobs. Politicians' job is to create an avenue where the private sector can create jobs, where investors have the confidence to take risk and to make hires. That's where long-term job growth. Now, granted, people work for the government, then that's a job, yes. But who's paying the salary of a government worker? It's the private sector. It's not entirely the private sector, but that's what produces the vast majority of our income as a country, and that's what pays for our services and pays for government payroll.
Well, and Rob, you're spot on, and it would be very, very refreshing to have a few more people in D.C. with that kind of visibility and background. Right after the Willamette Week and the Oregonian came out with some of their articles, people asked me, what about, Rob Cornilles and creating jobs? And I said, look, Rob Cornilles is a small business guy, and when you're a small business person, you push all the chips into the middle of the table. It's not just the money that you directly invest. You push your relationship with your wife, the relationship with your kids, the relationship with your extended family, with your church, with your community. You take all of your net worth and put it at risk, including your house and your college education for your kids. And Rob, that's what I want to see in D.C. is people that have had the guts to do that and stand up and do that. You've done that, and Suzanne Bonamici just hasn't.
Well, thank you, Alan. I think another thing you're saying is that small business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are willing to start something and then hire people, we're not only wanting to succeed, but we're willing to fail.
Yeah.
And we're willing to do it, come what may. We try our best every single day. I just had a very, I say discouraging conversation with a voter in the last hour. It was discouraging at first because he was telling me, as a small business owner, how he's so motivated to grow his business until in the last few years when he says, all my motivation has been taken away from me. It's either because of taxes that I can no longer afford, it's regulation that I can't comply with, otherwise I would have to lay people off. It's because of uncertainty, whether it be what's health care going to cost me, et cetera, et cetera. And he says, you know what? I just now feel like just kind of becoming insular, where I used to have this huge desire to grow and expand and to be bold. And he says, now I'm just shrinking because I'm trying to save myself.
Yeah, I call it turtling. You know, he just pulls everything back in the shell, closes up and tries to wait it out. And, you know, that's what they don't seem to understand, Rob, is that by tax and fees and regulations, this 10,000 bills that we in Oregon have passed over the last 20 years, once entrepreneurs start to pull back and they won't make that investment and they won't take the second mortgage out on their house, if you could get the second mortgage on your house, you know, they won't take those risks. That's where the economy de facto just flatlines. And there was actually an article that Jeb Bush wrote, and I don't know if I'm going to get to it today or if I'll get to it next week when I'm on, about this, about providing the opportunity for people to succeed and fail. That if you protect all the downside, you're not going to get any kind of growth.
That's right. And, you talked about fees and taxes just a moment ago.
Yeah.
This is not only the job creation comparison between me and my opponent. I think voters need to know, especially in today's economy, but they also need to ask themselves, who would we be putting back in Congress? Well, the fact is my opponent has been in the state legislature for 5 years, and in that time she's voted for 60 tax increases or fee hikes. That's one a month, Alan.
Yeah. Now
on Oregonians.
Well, and it's, you know, I've worked in state government. It's grown enormously, over 50% in the last 6 years. And it was just money poured over the transom because the economy was doing so well that they really didn't have any regard to efficiency or priority or anything else. And now we're stuck in this situation at the state level and the federal level where, guess what? The money ran out, yet we've made all these commitments, and now you're trying to back this stuff down. I think we need business people that have made those hard decisions back in D.C. and in Salem.
And I would add, business people who learned, sure, you did it in all the things you've done in your business career, Alan. You've learned to be able to work with people whose interests you may not share, whose hobbies you may not share, whose political or religious affiliation may be different than yours. But when you get together in an office environment, especially a small office, where everybody has to be productive and relying on one another, you learn to find consensus. You learn to find agreement. Even though there are disagreements perhaps around the room, you find areas of common ground that you could reach so that the business moves forward. And we don't have that today in government. We certainly don't have it in Congress. Look at what we've seen just over the last week or so.
Well, you know, my observation is exactly that, Rob, is that one of the things that they don't understand in business is you might not like this person, you might not share those values that you talked about, but if the business needs to get a deal done, you get a deal done. The other thing is that in business, your handshake and your word is your bond. And when you make that commitment, you have to carry through with that commitment. Too bad in politics today, it's not that way. Hey, Rob, we've got to go to a break, but I'd like you to hold over if you can. Are you going to be able to stay with me?
Oh, I'd be happy to.
Appreciate that. So, Larson, it's Christmas weekend, and I'm talking to Congressional District 1 candidate Rob Cornilles. And Rob and I were talking about our business experience, and I think when we left, we were talking about that in business, your word is your bond, and you make agreements with people that aren't necessarily people that you share a lot of background with, but because you're both driven to create business and economic opportunities, you do that, and when you give somebody your word, that it is a contract for all intents and purposes. In fact, I've done multi-$100 million deals on a handshake, basically, and no lawyers involved. So, Rob, you're on with Alan. Comments on business guys getting into politics?
Well, I think the other thing that just comes to my mind as I hear you speak about that, Alan, is that it's not only your bond, your word is not only your bond with the person you may be negotiating with or performing a service or providing a product for, but it's also for your employees. The people that you are entrusting your business to, and they are entrusting their livelihood to you. And as one who has employed 60 people in my small business over the years, I tell you, when my wife and I have hired people, we really consider that hiring another family.
Yep.
Because you're responsible to them, and that's why we've been able to be very grateful, frankly, that we've been able to meet a payroll for 195 straight months in our small business, because they put their trust in you, and you've had to live up to that trust. And that's why, especially this time of year, if there are any small business owners listening right now, they probably understand when I say, at times when you get to the last check on that stack of paychecks you have to sign on the 30th or the 31st, the last one, you kind of look at and you sigh, and you put it in your desk drawer because you know it wouldn't be fiscally responsible to pay yourself right now.
No, absolutely, Rob. That is the sensitivity. Those are the experiences that I want to see back in D.C. You know, another difference when I worked in state government, when we would hire somebody, it was euphoria. It was, yay, we've hired somebody else. This is a wonderful thing. And if you think about it, when you hire somebody into the government, traditionally, you've taken care of them and their family for life. I mean, literally for life, all the way through retirement and on to death. In business, when you hire somebody, you've personally taken on the responsibility to provide housing, clothing, food, cars, insurance, college educations for them and their family, and it is so different. Hey, Rob, one thing I want to do, we're moving into the Rob Cornilles This Is Your Life segment. And you run into this, Rob, because you're now a public personality and you're on the radio, and people from your past hear you on the radio. At least this person has represented themselves as somebody from your past. We have a caller that, if I can make this work, we're going to get you both on the line at the same time. Jess from Toledo is calling in, and Jess, you say you know Rob Cornilles.
I do know Rob Cornilles.
Rob, do you know who Jess is?
Is this Jess Wilson from Toledo, Oregon?
Indeed. It is indeed, Rob.
Wow, things actually work.
Yes.
This is actually Mr. Wilson to me.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I was shocked to see some negative ads about Rob on TV. I could not believe it. I have known Rob since he was kind of a young guy. I had him in junior high, at Tuolity Junior High there in Taggart. Mm-hmm. And I had him not only in class, but in basketball.
Now, wait. I understand that Chris Dudley played basketball, and I get that. But Rob Cornilles played basketball?
Yes. I don't know if anyone out there remembers Twarsdick that played on the Trailblazers. Well, Rob was our Twarsdick.
Oh, really?
Yes. And Rob is a fine, upstanding person. I could not say anything negative about Rob. In fact, I've coached and taught for 37 years, and I have taught thousands and coached thousands of students and athletes, and Rob has got to be in the top 1% to 2%.
Wow.
He is a man of great character. He was when he was at that age. You could count on him. If I wanted to know the truth, he would be the person I would ask.
Okay, Jess, you can stop now. You're making me feel terrible because nobody ever called in for me like this. I just had my sister on the phone, and she didn't say stuff like that about me.
Well, you said it. You said it earlier. You said, how could anybody say anything negative about a guy as nice as Rob? And that is the absolute truth.
Well, and when
I know one thing. If District 1 wants to have the very best in Washington to represent them, Rob is the man.
Well, thank you very much.
For him, but I certainly would if I was there.
Great, and we have to go. We're at the end of our show today. Thank you so much, Jess, for calling in. Rob, thank you so much. It's been a fabulous show. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Christmas.